All right, welcome to another episode of the CCBA, the Canadian College Basketball Association. Anyway, hey, we've been working on the selection for the upcoming big tournament, and we are down to boom, 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 boom. The fourth bracket, the fourth region, the Pacific West, and we are waiting on the committee to start pumping out names to see who's going to be the last four teams to be a part of the Big 16, when we get down to the Big 8 and then the Big 4 championship series in Ottawa, Canada. But getting back to the Pacific West, where all the games will be played in Vancouver. And let's see, as the committee is making their pick for the fourth seed, we have the Thunderwolves of Lakehead University, 10-7, and I think they just barely slide in. Looking at their resume here, as they have big wins over Saskatchewan and Queens, but they lost to our guys, the Varsity Blues, and they lost to Alberta, Griffins, CBC, UBC, I don't know what I'm saying there, and Manitoba. And they only have one prospect on this team. How you say Rayson? And this team is very freshman heavy. You get Butterfield, who's a freshman. Hornbuckle's a freshman. Wesley Carter Williams, who is the cousin of Michael Carter Williams. You know him from the Varsity Blues. And then you have Wells, Little, Dupree, and Curry. Little being the junior, the rest of them are freshmen. Wow. And they are starters. So, man, like I said before in earlier videos, I can't wait till this freshman class is ready for the CBS draft. Man, I can't wait. Oh, moving on, we just got the selection for the number 3 seed in the Pacific West, and the number 3 seed is check this out. It's the Saskatchewan, the Husky. Whoa, Saskatchewan, who has one of the top players in the upcoming draft, Blueface Baby. And we seen him play a couple of times, and this guy is really good. I think from what I saw, he's like, for me, I feel like he's the best player, in the nation. But you also got Lloyd here, and Jonas, and that they prospects. Looking at the rest of their main players on their roster, you have Lovelace, who's a freshman, Barton, who's a freshman, Barrett, who's a freshman, Hero, who's a freshman. Well, I think Hero is going to be pretty good. Hart, who's a freshman, and this guy, name starts with a Z, I cannot pronounce. He's a sophomore. Woo. Anyway, and but the thing about it is, like I said, they're only 10-7. The only big wins was against UBC in Alberta, but their losses at Lakehead, the Griffin, Toronto, Queens University, Manitoba, Ooh, it's gonna be tough sledding. It's gonna be tough sledding for Saskatchewan at number 3. And now just coming in is the number 2 ranked team. The number 2 seed. How'd I get ranked? Number 2 seed is gonna go to Queen's University. Queen's University. They have a record of 11-6, which I think is about that's like the best record for 2 seed so far. And we saw the butt whooping that they put on the Varsity Blues, so they're pretty good with Lillard, Hollingsworth, Beckman, and Baldwin being their prospects, and their underclassmen of Goldman, Collinsworth, Kennedy. All 3 of them are freshmen. Then you got Morris Walker, who's a sophomore. Then you got Manny here, who's a freshman. Then you got Houston here, who's a sophomore. And like I said, they beat Toronto, Saskatchewan, and Griffin. Wow. They have some impressive wins right here. That's some impressive wins. And then they lost to Alberta, Manitoba, UBC, Lakehead. So when you really look at all of the different brackets, you'll see that all around it's pretty much balanced all around. You got wins over here against these teams, losses here, and it's kind of like a lot of back and forth for a lot of these teams. You know, they'll beat this team, but they lose to that team. And then the team that beat them beat that team, but lost to that team. It's not really a clear cut one team just to dominate them all type of thing. Okay, and now we're looking at the final selection of not just the Pacific West, but the final selection of the tournament. The final pick to be in this thing, the Big 16. I can't say Sweet 16 because that's already taken, so I just call it the Big 16. I can't say the Final 4, so I have to call it the Big 4. So. Anyway, here we go. The final selection is our boys, the Toronto Varsity Blues. Whew. It was a little tough sledding there, but they made it in. The Varsity Blues with Mr. Garland here, who has been our focus on for the road to the CBX draft. And that was the first time type of thing. We'll be looking forward to seeing next year's road to CBX draft. I think Garland overall set the standard pretty good. Also, prospects off of this team is Michael Carter Williams. Y'all remember him? Pretty good coming off the bench. Then you got Jaleel Okafor. I don't think a team could go wrong with this draft pick. And then you got Jordan Bell, who I think could help out on coming off the bench, and Sterling Brown, who would be a solid pick coming off the bench. Looking at some of their other players, they're underclassmen here. We got Tobias Harris, who's a 5th year. Hey, man. Then you got Jaylen Brown, who's also a 5th year. Wow, I didn't even know that. And then you got Lou Banks. Lou Banks, who's a freshman. So it's going to be a while before he can catch up with his brother, coming from the NBA to be a free agent to play in the CBX on somebody's team. And then you got PJ Washington, who's also a freshman. And then you got Mr. Harris here, who's also a freshman. So wow, and these guys are pretty good. These underclassmen. Like I said, I can't wait till those freshmen become prospects and ready to get into that draft. Anyway, big wins for the Toronto. They beat Lakehead, Manitoba. They beat the top player in Saskatchewan, and then they beat Alberta. But they lost to UBC, they lost to the Queens, and they lost to the Griffin. So that is the bracket for the Pacific West. Looking at the matchups here, hey man, from the way I see it, I see a battle. Hey, I think Toronto should beat Lakehead, but the game between Queens and Saskatchewan, I think is probably going to be the best number one first round game. It looked like the best matchup. You got one of the top second seed teams who have beaten number one seed during the season, and then you got what could be considered one of the best 3 seed teams with arguably the best player in the nation. So that's going to be a very fun and interesting game. I can't wait to see that one, Saskatchewan versus Queens University. So yeah, so I'm taking that either one of these teams could make it to the Final Four. Hopefully Toronto takes care of business against Lakehead, and we have to go from there. I'm not putting my money on this one. I'm just rooting real heavy for Toronto to make it to the Big Four, but who can say? Who can say? So I'm gonna pick Toronto because they're the team we've been following, and I'm just basing it all on being a fan. I'm not basing it on anything else, and not anything logically anyway. And my guts is saying Queens will probably take it, but I'm rooting real heavy for the Varsity Blues to make it. And Garland, our focus road to the CBS draft. So hey, that's it. That's the final bracket. Shoot, it's all about playing the games now. So we'll see you soon. And the different locations, Montreal for the Atlantic East bracket, Toronto for the Midlands Central bracket, Yellowknife for the Great North bracket, and Vancouver for the Pacific West bracket, all leading to the road to Ottawa for the Big Four Championship Series. So until the next episode, thanks for watching, and we will catch you later. You have a good one.